or so, so you can sign off on the towers where they'll piss on your home. And if you feel like you're just powerless to answer them no, it's 'cause you are. They'll gladly pay you by the hour for a minute or so, so you can sign off on the towers where they'll piss on your home. And if you feel like you're just powerless to answer them no, it's 'cause you are. It's 'cause you are. They'll gladly stagnate a living wage, snap the chains and bury it. Labor slaves in rusty cages dragged behind a chariot, led by Mr. Racial Jungle, Joseph or Iscariot, fighting over scraps as they barrage us all with variants and BuzzFeed clickbait, straight until we're paralyzed, trying to distract us from the concentration camps that Joe had swore he'd close but only chose to amplify, where they got 50-something kids in cages made for 5 to occupy. And no, she hasn't seen the camps, but Harris swears they're paradise. She tells us the facilities are safe, and that right down to the women, they are regularly sterilized. Then she throws her head back and she proceeds to laugh, that sort of heartless cackle you'd expect from someone working steadfastly on behalf of the virus and a Congress full of parasites. And where was I? I was busy cashing every blue check, demonstrating plainly all the narratives expected from the verified. I was busy breeding verbal leeches by the terabyte. Train them to exsanguinate the wealthy while they sleep at night. Bleed the oil barons dry and barren, say they showed us how to share and now we share alike. Tell them I contracted rabies from a feral mic. Now I'm just another species losing sleep to noise pollution and these glaring lights, forced to change its habits and adapt to just survive. But now it's safe to say that some of us perfect time for you to burn the bridge to self-forgiveness. Now Now's the chance, take a stand, stay your hand before you cast another vote for corporate interest. Stars just weren't aligned for them to get their votes in line to see their promises delivered. But they killed it in an instant. Bills don't die by accident. They're all assassinated on behalf of the congressionally kismet by some lobbyists who see themselves as agents of clandestine fate, not fences in a prison. Dealing in the stolen goods of sleeping slaves and trading on the futures of their children. Betting on a spread of daily dead where every grave's creating profit by the millions. For some fascists lurking in the wings and all of their affiliates. And every Etna demigod our senators conduct their darkest dealings with. It really gets impossible to document or fingerprint. Cause it isn't just a pattern of corruption, it's the very fabric making up the structure of the system that we're living in. So dash your hopes and down a margarita goes. You box the shadows, take a little nap, and then you get back in and swing again. But if the margarita made you sick, you probably wouldn't take a drink again. So if you're voting either party, honey, think again. I recommend you steel your nerves and never serve an officer, a president, a despot, or a king again. And mark my words, the day will come where we will rise and sing again. And if voting makes you sick, well, no one's forcing you to drink again. Wait for long, I never had to change a song. I just sing it like a raised alarm. Smile when you say I'm wrong. I can't even fade the song, can't fake while you play the charms. And I don't know the page we're on, but this is where you say you're wrong. This is where you finally admit you weren't ignorant. You boldly voted Joe like an informed and blissful idiot. You chose to blur the parts of Biden you don't find the prettiest. Now you choose uplifting news and filter out the grittiest. But the truth is something coarse enough that even when it's hidden, it's apparent when you feel it on your fingertips. I know it's hard to deal with from a distance, and up close the truth is hideous. But there's just no getting rid of it. You've gotta let it enter. It just worries at your skin in every moment, loud or intimate. But shake it off, for fuck's sakes. You don't have to celebrate or be so proud of progress by imaginary increments. You don't have to heap such constant praise on fucking villains like they're stillborn promises or honestly just isolated incidents and not the product of the principle of privilege. Not intentional eugenics just by any other synonym. Covered up with desperate clusterfucks of rosy images. Labeled plain by any other name except for what the fucking image is. So once you stare the page down enough, you'll spot the difference. That one is red and one is blue, and that's the only truth, because neither one delivers on that promise of deliverance. One is red and one is blue, and that's the only difference. And the rest are isolated and imaginary incidents. One is red, one is blue, and that's the only difference. I didn't have to wait for long. I never had to change a song. I just sing it like a raised alarm. Smile when you say I'm wrong. I can't even fade the song, can't fake while you play the charms. And I don't know the page we're on, but this is where you say you're wrong.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? Is this going to work? I don't know. It's Sunday night. It's INN. It's Reef and Colin. And it's... No, it's not Reef and Colin. Holy shit. We have to cut that. It's Indian Reef and it's How Do We Miss That? That's what's going on Sunday night. Holy shit. Not. Maybe.
No, it's not.
Imposter. I'm really secretly Colin, everybody.
Imposter.
You know, I like you boom boom now.
I like a boom boom now.
Are you still on your other headset? No, I think you switched to the Yeti. I think you're good.
No. Yeah, I think I'm on this, right? Should be what I'm on. This right here.
That is Buttery Smooth. Yes, that is radio
Okay,
host Buttery Smooth. There you go.
Got it. Right up in there.
This is
Nice.
Indie News Network. We normally are professional and do this right. So this is Indie. Hi,
No, we're
I'm
not.
me. And that, well, not really. No, that's
Hello.
right. And then that's Reef. And we're here to do some horrifying fucking news because we do that every Sunday night. And welcome. We're live on 9 platforms like we always are. Thankfully, we're live to all of them because we had a little hiccup Thursday night with Jesse. But we fixed it Friday night. Everything went out fine. And we're fixed and looks like we're doing all the right things tonight. So I'm glad everybody's here. Good to see Kameshwari Kate here. Appreciate you being here. Kieran Pine, how are you, sir? I see Angel Rivera. Go check out The Handsome Cynic. Angel's actually got a GoFundMe, or not a GoFundMe, but he's trying to raise some money for a new laptop. So if you're able to, and it means there is a PayPal, there's a Venmo, he's got a Cash App. So if you see his tweet, he put out a tweet about it earlier tonight that if you're able to help out, that would be awesome. I actually checked in. I saw there was a photo on Facebook of Yeti, and he shaved off the beard straight to a porn stash, and cut his hair short. It looks really different. So we'll have to check in and get him back out here soon. I know he said he's working on like better power sources out at the property. So everybody who doesn't know, he and his wife bought a property in Canada last year, and they literally like built their house from the ground up, like from laying a foundation, the little shed that they live in, to solar and growing food for the land and everything. Like, unbelievable. But yeah, it's been, the other thing last night
since you looked at me.
we watched the UFC fight between Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus du Plessis.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't bring it as an article, but a couple of people were not aware that this week the UFC made a major announcement about TV and what's happening going forward, and that starting next year they're going to eliminate the pay-per-views and move exclusively to the Paramount Skydance app.
Paramount,
right?
And who bought Paramount recently?
That would be the Ellisons. We covered that 3 weeks ago on this show.
Correct.
That would be CIA Larry Oracle Ellison and his son David. They also own CBS and rights to a lot of other things, including South Park. Now they've got the UFC, and apparently they're going to do stuff across all the different Paramount platforms, from the Paramount Plus to a CBS show to who knows what else. I'm guessing there'll be like a Showtime version of the behind the scenes thing to compete with the Hard Knocks. There might be, an up and coming thing like the Next Fighter they used to do, I think, right? At one point.
Yeah, they're still going to do all that. That's all part of the UFC. So
right. So that'll all be part of like the new Paramount stuff. And they say they're not raising the price. We'll see what happens. Even if it's $14.99 a month, that's a whole lot better than charging $80 a month for the pay-per-views. Plus, you have to be a subscriber to ESPN. You have to have ESPN Plus just to even get it.
Pay-per-view. Yeah, fuck. Never paid, brother.
Right? Russian link. Congrats to Khamzat, who was dominant, and they've got another Russian champion. So that was fun to watch. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people were frustrated.
Chechenian, technically.
Chechenian, he's not Dagestani. That's right, but yes, come see, comes out. Yeah, so 6-1, 6-1. But they'll raise the price for sure. The shareholders aren't going to want to pay that $7.7 billion. I don't know.
I think the advertisers won't mind, like collectively. I don't know. They'll be all right.
We'll see.
They'll manage.
But they will probably end up raising the price because they're going to bring in other properties and content as well. I read somewhere that the entire company right now was only worth about 6.7 billion, but they committed to 7.7 billion over 7 years to the UFC. They're like, how can you do that? Well, you're only committing 1.1 of that 6,
Well, if you're,
and you're adding a massive property on top of it. So that's how.
yeah.
Sean the
Plus,
Accord
if you
Lord,
go
good to see
without
you,
the
brother.
pay-per-view model, more people watch. The thing that they're trying to deal with is people have been
Pirating.
stealing the pay-per-views forever.
Russian link, brother.
So-
Just like what we're talking about.
Right. If people don't do that and actually pay.
So
You
the
know.
story is
But
that you've
anyway.
got billionaires, and of course,
And millionaires.
UFC is owned by a company called Endeavor. We talked about this recently on some show.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I was on EM Wake Up or something, but
Used to
Endeavor
be Zuffa, right?
owns TKO, which also owns WWE and
WE.
IMG Sports and a bunch of other properties. They're becoming
I think
a
they
full
partnered.
service. I think it might be an ownership, but it's a full service partnership. They're becoming like an end-to-end distribution house where they'll have the in-house marketing and the agent and the organizations and everything. And that's why you're
Where's
seeing a lot
Zuffa
of,
at in this, I forget.
I don't know, but that's why you're seeing a lot of cross promotions between UFC and WWE. It's because they're in the same family. So you're going to see more of that. You might see more of that, but now WWE's going like ESPN plus a little Peacock stuff, and they're spreading it out all over the place, and they're actually increasing what it's going to cost you to watch WWE. It's almost flipping it on a dime, which is really interesting to see how it's all playing out. And which model will end up winning out will be interesting. So I know you guys didn't come here to hear about fights and television rights.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. We care
You
because
know,
we watch this shit every
nobody
weekend.
cares.
So it's interesting to see.
I watch it and I still don't care.
It's interesting to see how it all is going to play out. On top of the fact that you've got Oracle, massive Zionist buying,
Especially when Trump is showing up.
right, and you've got a massive Zionist buying into.
The Angels talking about WWE promoting the Canelo fight. That's Zuffa boxing. That's what I'm saying. Just putting that on. That's fucking.
Who's
Dana
that?
is involved with that too, I think.
And they'll probably end up bringing Slap Fight into it too, for all we know. You know, he'll end up selling that for $1 billion too, just to shut him up. They'll buy it.
Again, I've given Dana the free idea to just do head kicks. That's what that's the show.
Oh,
We just trade head kicks and see who gets knocked out. It'll be the first one that lands a head kick is the one that'll win. So, well, whatever.
somebody needs to start a cunt
Like-
count. I love it. Yes, that's a great idea. We need a cunt counter for every time I say cunt. That's a great idea because there's a lot of cunts out there.
Why? Why?
That's not the question. The question is why not? Why not? All right. We don't ask why here. We ask why not. All right. So we're going to talk about, and I saw actually JB covered it today. I'm happy that somebody else did anywhere in the space because he's probably going to be the only other one that I know of. VA terminates union contracts for nurses. That's bad. Look, fuck the U.S. military, but the soldiers that come home that are fucked up, they are entitled to health care for what they did, serving wise and putting their bodies and brains and lives on the line. And they were offered a bargain.
Serve.
And we're not holding up our end of the bargain. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about that.
Yep.
We're going to talk about what do we do every week?
The deal further.
There's fuck Israel. We're going to, of course, cover a lot of fuck Israel this week. Then we're also going to talk about the war crimes that were perpetrated by the U.S. and U.K. in support of Israel's war crimes. So more fuck Israel there. And then we're going to get to some of the authoritarianism and the crazy shit that's happening here. And I've got a long lightning round. There's a bunch of stuff in the lightning round. So I want to get going. Before we get started, Eric Meyer, thank you so much. Like literally 10 minutes before the show started, I had to update the slide and update it all over the place. I'm happy to do it. So thank you, man. Sign up for INNnewsletter.com for a monthly subscription. Thank you. Really, really appreciate that. Everybody who signs up, we really can use all the help we can get at, again, there. Cash App, $ Indie News Network. Co-fee, that's ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. At paypal.me/Indie News Network. At indienewsnow.com. That's our website where you can keep the media free, and there's a Stripe link there. And then there's also, like I said, the Substacks at INN Newsletter. And we are live right now at IndieMediaToday.com. Actually, I need to check on the chat. Hi, everybody that's there. Oh, my goodness. Look at all those people over there. Oh, my goodness. Who are these people? We got 17 over there over on...
Who are these people?
Over on the Substack right now. So thank you for that.
Hey.
Good to see everyone over there. And all right, so we're going to get started with our... I'm not going to copy our brother Kit. First segment of tonight. Nurse.org. Not a publication I frequent, but this one's important. VA just terminated most federal union contracts, including the National Nurses United. That's bad. Okay, so what's happening? In a significant shift affecting approximately 360,000 healthcare workers, the Department of Veterans Affairs, or the VA, has severed ties with most federal unions, including National Nurses Organizing Committee and NNU, terminating existing collective bargaining agreements effective August 6, 2025. What the fuck? This unprecedented move voids union contracts for about 80% of the VA's 450,000 person workforce, who were previously represented by federal unions. This is an attempt to union bust. It may or may not work. For VA nurses, this decision eliminates long-standing protections that have governed working conditions, staffing ratios, wage negotiations, workplace safety protocols, and grievance procedures. My guess is that because it had the letters DEI involved in it somewhere, that they terminated this. So, AFL-CIO of government employees, National Association of Government Employees, the National Federation of Federal Employees, the NNU, Service Employees International Union, of course, the SEIU, they're pretty famous, all of them. The termination of union contracts coincides with the VA's plan to reduce its workforce by approximately 30,000 positions by the end of fiscal year 2025. I don't know who's going to be left. According to the cited report, those reductions will occur primarily through attrition methods, including retirements, voluntary / quote-unquote forced resignations, and separation incentives, rather than immediate mass layoffs. So basically they're going to take some of the more veteran, experienced people and offer them buyouts to walk away, which of course will be a brain drain on the VA. For VA nurses specifically, the combination of voided union contracts and workforce reductions raises several practical concerns. I would say so. First, patient-to-nurse ratios may increase as positions remain unfilled following attritions. Part of their plan. That tell you how much, like, MAGA loves the troops, right? Second, without you... What? I didn't hear that.
What? No, nothing.
Without union advocacy, compensation packages and benefits may stagnate or decline. Also part of the plan. Third, workplace safety protocols, particularly important in psychiatric and emergency settings, nothing to see here, they may be too difficult to enforce. Oh, man. So the VA has stated that these changes follow departmental reviews aimed at improving operational efficiency. That sounds very much like a Doge thing. Though specific details about how nursing practice will be restructured remain unclear. So wait a minute. You let all these people go, you terminated the contracts, and you didn't even lay out what the future is going to be and how you're going to handle it? Nice. Lawmakers and nursing organizations have expressed concern that the combined impact of contract terminations and staffing reductions could compromise care quality for veterans. Could? I think it almost assuredly will. What do you mean could? What is with this namby-pamby bullshit hedging language? As this situation evolves, nurses working in VA facilities should stay informed about how these changes affect their specific roles and responsibilities. You want to talk about clinical? Oh my God, this is like right down the middle article right here. Just this is the way it is. Not angry at the people for terminating it for no reason other than they want to save money that isn't theirs. Professional nursing organizations are monitoring developments closely and may offer guidance for affected nurses navigating this new landscape of VA employment. Thanks so much for your help. By the way, this is the bullshit press release that they put out on August 6th. The move will ensure the VA stays focused on veterans instead of spending millions of taxpayer dollars and approximately 750,000 hours per year on union activities. Union busting. Yes, that's protected. They're allowed to do that. You can have organized workers at a mass level, and they are allowed to be paid to meet. Department of VA today announced termination of collective bargaining agreements for most VA bargaining unit employees, a move that will make it easier for VA leaders to promote high-performing employees. Yeah, because you know those are the ones that get worked to the bone. Hold poor performers accountable. All right, so it's all the people that are on the bottom they can't fire because they're union members, and improve benefits and services to America's veterans, which it's not going to do because it's going to be a massive cut. The announcement comes in response to President Trump's executive order that excludes certain federal agencies from labor management relations programs. It's not even really on them. They're being ordered by executive order to terminate these contracts. In accordance with the same executive order, VA on April 25th stopped withholding union dues for most employees' paychecks. VA today notified the following unions that, effective immediately, pursuant to the executive order, their contracts with the VA have been terminated for most bargaining unit employees. And we mentioned who they were. Contracts covering the roughly 4,000 VA cops, firefighters, or security guards represented by these unions will remain in place, of course, as those occupations were exempt from the executive order. Because he loves the cops. He's a cop sucker. They're the Gestapo that are going to enforce his bullshit authoritarianism.
Cop sucker. Now.
This decision is good news for veterans, families, caregivers, and survivors for several reasons. Yeah. Ask a VA nurse if it's going to be good news. All right. VA staff will spend more time with veterans. That's bullshit because in 2024 alone, over 1,900 VA bargaining unit employees, there are 360,000, right? 360,000 employees. So 1,900 of them spend hours working on taxpayer-funded union time. Yes, because they had to make sure that all their workers weren't getting screwed by you, the government, fuckers. Cunts. Add to the counter. Including some who are paid more than $200,000 a year. Yeah, I'm sure those people probably attended like 2 hours worth of meetings over the entire lifetime of the thing, but they pinned it on. It's part of the 750,000 hours. Dude, you sound like pearl clutching little bitches. VA facilities can focus on treating veterans. Like they act like they're holding powwow meetings instead of actually treating patients. Guys, the backlog is how fucking long already? They can't treat the ones they got. But they have to be able to organize and make sure they're not getting screwed by their bosses.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
here they go. More than 187,000 square feet of VA's office and clinical space is being used by union representatives because we don't have enough office space in this world, right? Free of charge. Because it's for the people who work there. Yeah. This has cost the VA millions of dollars. Okay, so make them privatize and go to another place. Great, that's only going to fuck over your employees who now have to use the dues that they've already paid out of pocket to their union to now have to pay for office space. Thanks.
Yep.
Instead of using a structure that's already there and office space that was already in existence. But thanks.
Today's decision will ensure VA facilities are fully focused on helping veterans get the care and benefits they've earned, instead of serving as free regional offices for unions that oppose our efforts to improve VA. That's what's happening. Unions are opposing their efforts to, quote unquote, improve. That's use of AI. That's use of digital HIPAA stuff. That's all kinds of crap that the nurses know what's coming. They're smart.
You're gonna be the guinea pigs.
VA can manage its staff according to veterans' needs. Guess what? You can do that without and still work with union members, not union demands. Labor contracts have restricted managers' ability to hire, promote, and reward high-performing employees. Yeah, they're not allowed to vote to promote somebody who's a union member? Bullshit. I call bullshit. Hold poor performers accountable.
Bullshit.
Right? Holding poor performers accountable, there's a process. You write them up. You give them a talking to. There's a process. They don't want to go through the process. They want to be able to terminate poor workers of color. I'm going to say it. They want to be able to terminate poor workers of color anytime they want without anybody saying otherwise and any due process for that employee. Fuck you, cunts. Today's decision frees VA managers to act in the best interests of veterans rather than union bosses. All right, so blow me is what I would say here.
You're fired.
Then we have the statement from the National Nurses Union. All right, National Nurses United. President Trump continues waging class warfare against the working people of America. Today's announcement to terminate our union contract, along with the contracts of our union siblings, all right, is an attack on those who dedicate their lives in service of others. Let me make this a little bigger. This is just the latest salvo in the battle to break the spirit of working people in this country, but we will not be broken. I don't think that that's really what is going on here. It's trying to move towards AI and not break the spirit. It's trying to literally replace us with machines. We will continue to fight for and assert our constitutionally guaranteed collective bargaining rights and to speak freely against policies that hurt veterans and the public. That's our duty as nurses, and we have a friend of the show who's a nurse here, several of them, and former. This is in spite of the Trump administration's unprecedented, outrageous, and irresponsible attacks. That's at least somewhat inflammatory language. NNU recognizes this effort to erase our collective bargaining agreements is a blatant attempt to bust our unions and to silence our nurses and workers who are standing on the front lines to protect our country's fundamental institutions. We know this administration is hell-bent on silencing nurses and other VA workers to steamroll the destruction of the VA. This administration is marching toward the privatization of veteran care so they can move billions of taxpayer money out of the VA system, which is proven to provide excellent veteran-centric care, and into the coffers of private health corporations run by billionaires who don't give a fuck about our veterans and won't have specialists to deal with veterans specifically. This president has made it clear that he has no respect for the Constitution, but we believe strongly that our right to join together to collectively bargain is constitutionally protected. And they're right. It cannot be swept away through an overreach of an executive order based on spurious claims. We will continue to pursue legal action with our fellow unions in the case filed April 3rd in U.S. District Court for Northern District of California, challenging President Trump's March 27th executive order. His EO removed collective bargaining rights of nearly 1 million federal workers. That's making America great again, right? The unions argue that the executive order was an unconstitutional retaliation against the unions for engaging in activity protected by the First Amendment. But we know he doesn't give a fuck about the Constitution either. Cunt. Nurses never abandon our patients, and we will continue our fight for funding and safe staffing levels that our patients deserve. As union nurses, we understand that collective bargaining rights are fundamental to carrying out our critical role as patient advocates. It's because of VA nurses' ability to speak up about patient safety through our union that our nation's veterans receive the highest level of care. Studies have shown unionized hospitals have better outcomes than non-unionized hospitals because nurses and other staff are able to speak up about their concerns and hold management accountable because there's a process to get rid of people. They can't just fire the one that speaks up. Veterans deserve nurses who are free to advocate for their care without fear of retaliation, discipline, or losing their jobs. This is at least a strongly worded letter. The other one was disgraceful.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say it was.
Well, yeah, except that it's accompanied by a lawsuit. And that's what you have to do. You win this in the courts. You make the courts undo this. The courts reinstate.
Go on strike.
But that hurts veteran care. The courts reinstate veteran rights.
Yeah.
Okay, that they have to reinstate this, and this is removing rights from veterans. Like, wouldn't the veterans want to sue about this? Because it's going to reduce their quality of care. Yeah. Nurses always abandon patients. It happens all the time. I would say that the nurses that are in chat would certainly disagree with you there. Right? Thank you, Kieran. We're up to 6 on the cunt count. Make it 7. All right.
Don't encourage them. You fucking animals.
Well,
what's your profanity?
VA and Trump, like, again, the VA had no choice here. They were allegedly, bound by executive order to do this. So it sucks. This is a Stephen Miller crafted plan. This is a private healthcare insurance funded plan because they want those veterans in the system paid by the U.S. military for profit. And that's what's going to end up happening. There's one of the nurses right there. Wait, I can abandon my patients? What the fuck? Why didn't somebody tell me sooner? What's up, Descendant Bloom? How are you? All right. So that was segment 1. If you're able to, it means support the media you want to see. These are the incredible people that have already done so. Again, thank you to Eric Meyer for being this week's latest subscriber to INN Newsletter. The other ways to do that are on Cash App, $Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. We'll pop something up during the show if you support during the show. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. And a couple of times, Ralph Mejia and Kieran Pine, all of a sudden, it's a random time at a Monday afternoon. I get a PayPal alert. Thanks to you two. Really appreciate that. It makes me smile, really, and it helps a lot. IndieNewsNow.com. That's our news website where you can find not just INN content, but everybody's stuff, including Dissent and Bloom articles, and stuff from anti-war and a lot of the outlets and writers that we're going to feature tonight. And then, of course, at INNnewsletter.com, where we do a weekly update and other podcasts for INN, and IndieMediaToday.com, where we are still live right now. Howdy, everybody out there on the Substacks. All right, so it's let's see. Let's say hi to everybody for a few minutes. Lady Alex was at work yesterday. Okay. Hi, Lady Alex. We'll say hi to her. We're saying hi to everybody. Oh, I see Golden Monarchs in the chat. I actually wanted to shout out, and I'm going to shout out your article later on tonight. I'm going to show it for a second and tell everybody to go read it. That's going to be in the lightning round because Golden Monarch put out a new article that I thought was really important for everybody to look at. right, good. Now we have to close that and close that. And nobody gets to look at my
Close your
DMs.
messages.
Nobody gets to look at my DMs.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know why fucking Twitter always turns it back on, you fucking piece of shit app.
Like, stop.
Piece of shit.
Stop. Okay.
Piece of shit app.
It's time. Everybody knows it's your favorite segment every week. It's...
What?
What was that?
Fucking
Is that for
elevator
boats
music?
later?
That's what that was.
Wait, is that for
No.
boats later? Oh, that's just okay. It's everybody's favorite time. It's fuck
It's
Israel
fucking
time.
Elevator music.
Every day is
Did
fuck
really
Israel
well,
day when
honestly.
they're committing genocide. So I'm just gonna
Segment
start
intro.
nice with a Sky News, and because you know how much we love corporate media around here. Officials say that more than 100 people have been killed in Gaza in 24 hours, making it the deadliest day in a week.
A week.
100 people
I
in
mean-
24 hours is the deadliest day in a week. Fuck Israel. Yes, and Tiberius, of course, has to point out, still less deadly than 10 minutes in Philippi. I don't even know what that means. Yeah, okay, and then you've got all the garbage
Yeah.
clowns in the replies. So,
This
and
is why
not
we
to
don't
be
scroll Twitter.
outdone.
Gross.
All right. Dave DeCamp at antiwar.com. Israeli forces killed 50 Palestinians in Gaza over 24 hours. And another 4 Palestinians starved to death due to the U.S.-backed Israeli blockade. Isn't that nice? So this was August 14th. That was 3 days ago. So that was on Thursday. Gaza's health ministry said on Thursday that Israeli forces killed 50 Palestinians over the previous 24-hour period as relentless U.S.-backed Israeli attacks continue across the Strip amid Israel's preparation to escalate its genocidal war, because they haven't murdered enough yet. The health ministry said that the bodies of another 4 Palestinians killed by previous attacks were recovered. Quote, a number of victims still under the rubble and on the streets, where ambulance and civil defense crews are unable to reach them at this time because they've destroyed all the roads. I didn't even know there were any ambulances left at this point. On top of the violent deaths, Palestinians continue to starve to death due to the Israeli blockade and restrictions on aid. The health ministry said that it recorded 4 malnutrition deaths over 24 hours, which brings the total number of victims of famine and malnutrition alone to 239, including 106 children. There's a photo of one killed in an airstrike. Among those violently killed by the IDF were desperate Palestinians seeking food aid. We're going to cover more of that. The health ministry said that 22 aid seekers were killed and another 269 were injured. Of course, they don't have the medical capabilities to really take care of those 269 by design. Since the U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, you mean American mercenaries, began operating at the end of May, the health ministry has recorded the deaths of 1,881 aid seekers and the injuries of 13,863.
Starving people.
Unbelievable. The Palestinian
awful.
news agency, WAFA, reported that at least 5 Palestinians were killed by Israeli fire near an aid center north of the southern city of Rafah. The news agency also reported Israeli airstrikes and shelling in Khan Yunis and Gaza City. I think one of those shot by Israeli fire in the north was child. At least 8 Palestinians were killed in an Israeli bombing of a house in Gaza City's Zaytun neighborhood. Israel has significantly ramped up its attacks on Gaza City as it's preparing to launch a new offensive to take it over, a plan that involves forcibly displacing 1.2 million civilians with artillery fire. The health ministry said that the latest violence has brought its death toll since October 7th, 2023 to 61,776 officially. Number of wounded to just over 154,000, almost 155. Studies have shown, of course, that the ministry's numbers are likely a significant undercount. And that's, I believe, the Nader article that says it's like 500,000.
Mhm.
So, subscribe to antiwar.com. Dave DeCamp, great writer, one of the top Indie Media Award honoree, support independent media like that. Part of the Libertarian Institute, too. Now, I haven't brought one of this guy's articles in a while. Simplicius is Garden of something, Simplicius the Thinker. I think they used to call it his Garden of something. I think they got rid of that. But this was just laying it out. Israel announces the final plan to occupy Gaza. It sounds like a final solution.
Like solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Netanyahu has announced plans for the final takeover of Gaza, which he's announced as billing as liberation from Hamas. The way that they declared,
Nothing justifies genocide.
the way they declared August 16th Liberation Day in D.C., right? It's unreal.
Uh-huh.
Same type of shit or whatever, 15. I'm not going to play the RT video because I don't want to get it knocked out by YouTube. Then there's a timeline refresher from 2023 above to the present time below. Netanyahu says Israel doesn't seek to occupy Gaza. That was November 9th, 2023. But now, August 4th, 2025, he's decided on full occupation of Gaza Strip. All right. It's interesting how, given Netanyahu's above infographic,
fuck the hill.
Yeah, fuck the hill too.
Fuck them.
Israel's objectives in Gaza can be superficially compared to the Russian SMO. The difference is Russia is following international law, whereas Israel is breaking it. It was the UN itself which established the known precedent that a people have the right to self-determination when it came to Serbia being pressured to recognize Kosovo's independence. But in Donbass or even Gaza, no such right to self-determination and official recognition apparently exists. In Ukraine, Russia's only enforcing the UN's very own standards on self-determination, while in Gaza, Israel is breaking it. Interesting dichotomy there. To further highlight the hypocrisy, listen to J.D. Vance's latest statement, wherein he breezily describes taking military control over Gaza as being up to Israel. But the same privilege is for some reason not afforded to Russia in taking over Donbass. Why is that? Well, I think it's because Donbass was technically part of Ukraine, but they've separated. They've announced their independence and asked to align with Russia. They're mounting
9 years of bombing might fucking make you feel a way about it.
You might, it might.
So
there are mounting issues for Bibi, who seeks as swift an operation as possible to mitigate growing disaster. Echoes of brewing civil war have erupted in Israeli society over growing exhaustion and the issue of Haredi military exceptionalism, meaning that the ultra-Orthodox don't have to serve. All right? And you can't go to war
I heard
with
someone complaining about that, too. One of these rabbis over there was like, they're not sending, they're sending our children or whatever.
Right? So this includes large ongoing general protests against the new Gaza occupation plan in Israel. Like, they're pissed. They don't want to occupy it either. Next is the fact that multiple world leaders have had enough of Bibi. Yeah, right. That's all a show. I'm not even going to
blame it on a baby.
Right. Macron announced France would officially recognize Palestine in September. Bullshit. Other major countries follows. Palestine already has an official delegation at the UN. Like, officially, like, who gives a shit? It's meaningless.
Yeah.
All right. Germany will, until further notice, authorize no military equipment exports that can be used in the Gaza Strip. Yeah, like they can fucking control that.
Meanwhile, their companies are already deciding to do so anyway.
Right. Yesterday, news broke that Trump had allegedly yelled at Bibi on the phone. Enough of this bullshit. This is all theater nonsense. They're all in cahoots. They're all part of this. Of course, virtually all the political reactions above are performative in nature, while every country secretly does its utmost in supporting Israel's military machine. These leaders are simply trying to sit in both chairs, appease their growing domestic Muslim crowds, while still carrying out their secret pro-Zionist directives. Not even secret. This is accelerated recently with many other subversive developments taking place. In Lebanon, there are renewed threats of civil war as the Lebanese government has raised pressure on Hezbollah to disarm, which would be insane because it just means your country's totally going to be taken over by Israel. In an interview with the Lebanese defense minister, apparently admitted to coordinating with Israel in disarming Hezbollah south of the Litani.
Hezbollah. What
Insane.
a fucking stooge.
Insane. Did Al Jazeera fabricate this interview?
Occupation! Fight the occupation!
That's a good one. Meanwhile, a cockamamie plan to relocate Lebanese Shiites to Iraq is even being floated as Israel clamps down on its plans to entirely dominate the surrounding region as total hegemon. That's nuts. So now they not only want to expel the Palestinians from Gaza, they want to expel the Lebanese Shiites to Iraq with all the other Shiites that are in Iraq.
Greater Israel. Anyone? Anybody?
This is in service of Greater Israel. Right? So then we've got Lebanon Shia are a majority estimated at close to 2 million. So you're going to drive 2 million people out of the country? How are you going to do that? I have an idea. It's the same way they did it to Gaza.
Yep.
They're going to destroy it block by block, bomb the fuck out of it. Unfortunately, that's in parallel to a recent uptick in coincidental events like Hezbollah ammo sites suddenly going up in flames. Yeah, you had at least 4 Lebanese troops killed, 7 injured by an ammo blast in the south of the country. Reports that they'd been taking down Hezbollah weapons depot. Footage from Lebanese media of ambulances racing the site. Right, but you don't get to see what happened. So this, again, we got maps, Azerbaijan, that's also part of this also. That's why I wanted to bring this. U.S. and Israel continue to push toward total hegemony over the Middle East with an unprecedented urgency. On one hand, the urgency is derived from known geopolitical factors, i.e., time not being on Israel's side, but on another, from the momentum of a series of perceived successes, which has caused the U.S.-Israeli hegemon to believe that they can put the finishing blow on all remaining resistance in the region because they've taken out Assad, they've taken out most of Hezbollah's leadership, so now the only thing left standing is Iran. And Yemen, of course, the little thorn in the side.
Yeah.
This, of course, refers to the fall of Syria, like I said, a newly perceived upper hand of Azerbaijan over Armenia, which has allowed the U.S.-Israeli Hydra to begin maneuvering for a stranglehold. This brought a recently narrowed focus on the Zangezur corridor.
Zangezur, yeah.
Yeah, where Armenia just signed over a 99-year lease of rights to the United States. I believe Vanessa Beeley wrote an article about this specific agreement. So go follow her and subscribe at vanessabeeley.substack.com. Another Indie Media Award honoree. I didn't bring that tonight. The new corridor is glibly being designated as the TRIP, or the Trump route for international peace and prosperity. Oh my God.
Okay.
As they bomb the fuck out of Yemen and Lebanon and Syria and soon to be Jordan and Egypt and Iraq, Greater Israel. Quote, the corridor links mainland Azerbaijan to its Nakhchivan enclave, Nakhchivan, right? Which is separated by a 32-kilometer stretch of Armenian territory while maintaining the sovereignty of Armenia over the territory. The route will be operated according to Armenian law and the U.S. will sublease the land to a consortium for infrastructure and management for up to 99 years. I wonder who that consortium is going to be run by. I wonder if there'll be any Israeli influence in there. Huh. It will facilitate trade, energy transit, and regional connectivity, including rail lines, oil and gas pipelines, fiber optic cables, and roadways. Many hardline figures in Iran naturally reacted with scathing condemnation, as the deal clearly implies the positioning of U.S. assets directly on Iran's northern border. They don't give a fuck.
Yep. No.
I mean, look, we supported Israel bombing them with air support earlier this year, and they didn't do shit really to us. What'd they hit? The thing in Qatar that they warned them in advance they were going to do? Keep in mind, Iran has already notably been attacked by Israel using Azerbaijani corridors in the last series of exchanges, with attack flight paths charted here. All right, so Simplicius has actually done the work here to chart all this stuff out. As such, it's clear that the deal opens up another potential avenue to box Iran in from the north, which obviously stands to be a highly destabilizing development, as Iran will be forced to react. I mean, what would we do?
Well, there's also
go ahead.
Also coincides with the David corridor too, which is the other part of this that, essentially it's we're doing two things at once to try to encroach and encircle, essentially.
Right.
So,
Natalie Williams, happy birthday to you. Good to see you here. Sorry, it's in the middle of this awful segment, but I saw you there. Right. That being said, many have expressed justifiable doubts about the extent of Trump's deal. Of course, because everything taco, but it's not taco. It's actually Trump always collapses is more like it. The deals that he announces always collapse. It can be directly compared to Trump's superficial milestone for the development of Ukrainian land, which everyone knows was nothing more than a political performance and has no real chance of bearing fruit. Similarly here...
He prefers taco salads anyway.
Right? Sure. Although he doesn't like the spice. We know that. Similarly here, the deal puts points on Trump's scoreboard, but leaves huge questions as to how much it can actually tangibly accomplish. Some have rightfully called into question the U.S.'s ability to even construct railways back home, let alone build out such ambitious freight lines into a new Silk Road-esque corridor in distant Eurasia, a feat that requires a major suspension of disbelief. The U.S. is no China. We can't even get high-speed rail in California. Either way, the economic angle of Trump's prosperity route deviously conceals the real geopolitical motives, which, as is always the case in Trump's administration, are tied to benefiting Israel first and foremost. The U.S.'s involvement on Iran's border can only be designed to put new pressures on Iran while facilitating the long-term Zionist plan to dismember or destroy Israel's arch nemesis once and for all. Right? So even Mark Ames says so. The only problem is any gain for Azerbaijan is a gain for Turkey, and a gain for Turkey is a loss for Israel. Thus works the immutable balance of powers of the region's zero-sum game. Also, the action has potential to create the unintended consequence of further strategically uniting Iran and Russia over the unwelcome breach in this shared critical region of theirs. Recall the infamous 2019 RAND report on destabilizing Russia, which lays out 6 possible U.S. moves in the current geopolitical competition. Provide lethal arms to Ukraine, which we did. Resume support to the Syrian rebels, which we did. Promoting regime change in Belarus, which we did. Exploiting Armenian and Azeri tensions, which we did. Intensifying attention to Central Asia and isolating Transnistria, a Russian-occupied enclave within Moldova, Watch this space. To come back around, Israel's new Gaza operation is meant as a final solution, as literally outlined by Israeli officials. And I'm not going to put that douchebag up. Note the above. Palestinians are to be processed into central camps with anyone remaining in the city.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Not concentrated into camps, i.e. those who refuse to be forcibly and ethnically cleansed.
Central camps.
They'll be designated as Hamas militants and appropriately destroyed. This IDF plan is meant to bring Gaza under total Israeli control.
Keep an eye out for the Zyklon B purchases from Israel. I'm just saying.
Seriously. This IDF final plan is meant to bring Gaza under total Israeli control, but with increasing mass casualty incidents for the IDF of late, it remains to be seen how successful this latest bumbling foray can be. We can only expect more of the same failure, with Netanyahu again forced to drum up an Iranian threat to extricate himself from another self-made disaster in a few months' time. The only question will be, will Trump, reportedly experiencing declining popularity for the first time, not fifth time, owing to his diehard Zionism, will Trump support the inevitable future escalation train against Iran? Or has he finally had enough?
Yes.
And will he find the backbone to stand up to his boss once and for all? No.
Like he had one to begin with. Okay.
His boss isn't Bibi, it's Miriam Adelson. It's the Mossad.
Yeah.
Latest polls continue to show a strong Democrat surge for the 2026 midterms. There's always blowback in the in the midterms after a changeover presidential election. So I expect the Democrats are probably going to...
They've elected the new pope!
No, not a new pope, a new Congress. There'll be a new Congress.
Whatever.
Right? But of course...
Same difference.
Yeah, in the incorrigibly corrupted AIPAC-owned Republicans, guess what? The Democrats are AIPAC-owned too. Both sides.
AIPAC-controlled Dems, yeah. Both sides, Johnson.
As a last related note, here's eminent economist Richard Wolff being very direct about what comes next. And I'll let him say it.
Old Wolfie.
The American empire is over. We're done.
Oh, maybe.
We peaked about 12, 15 years ago, and we are on a down. And it's very hard for the American people, which I understand. I am one. It's hard to get your head around that. We've had a century of on the way up, which is a lot more fun than on the way down. But it does happen to every empire. We're only the latest. Look at the British, how far they've fallen. We're in that process. If you take the United States together with the other G7 countries, that used to be the dominant bloc of the world, right? The United States, let's just enumerate them so everybody knows. Canada, Japan, Germany, France, Italy, and Britain, okay? The G7 world. And I'm going to add up all the GDP, gross domestic product, total output of goods and services of all of those 7 countries, U.S. and its major allies. And now I'm going to compare it to the gross added up GDPs of China and its allies, known now as the BRICS. Okay, you add up the United States, about 28% of world output. You add up China and the BRICS, it's 35% of the world output. We aren't the wealthiest bloc in the world, we're number 2. And that's new, and that changes everything.
And if you ain't
And
first,
you can rattle
you're
your
last.
sabers all over the. You put the 7th Fleet in the South China Sea. Isn't going to change that. You've got to come to terms with that. But we are led by people who don't want to do that because nobody wants to be the politician who has to explain to the people it's over.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Just keep in mind, BRICS modeled after the World Bank.
yes, BRICS is
It
no
in and of
better
itself could
than the
be a
United
problem at some
Nations.
point.
That's right. BRICS is just
yeah.
another
They're their
behemoth
own
like
capitalist
NATO.
empire.
Right. So fuck Israel
Sorry
for
if
all
that
that.
upsets you.
Journalist and scholar Asal Rod fixed it for you. Okay, it's not just bad coverage of Gaza. Western media is also largely ignoring what's happening in West Bank, which we have been talking about, because if they reported all of it accurately, the public would see that Israel's real goal is stealing all the land and erasing Palestinian existence. What do you mean? Oh, the West Bank is seeing a creeping Nakba. What? Amazing. But people aren't really paying attention.
Stuff happens that the news won't tell you.
But that's Haaretz. That's even in Israel. They're telling everyone what's happening.
Yeah.
And as Asal reminds us, we covered last week, this is why Israel murders journalists. Because
I brought this on Wednesday.
Did you?
It's a good graphic from this
It is a good graphic
Sure.
from this year. All right. And I think that was all I had tonight for Fuck Israel. I think that was enough. I liked Simplicius's article. It kind of sets a geopolitical kind of landscape and touches on a bunch of different things. Go give them a follow. I'll put that. It's simplicius76.substack.com. I'll drop the link in the description and in the Substack afterwards. Oh no, I did have more. Sorry. No, not that. Hind Cowdery. Israel is wiping out everything we ever had. All right. That's another one. All right. And she's there. I tweet what I see and feel.
Yep.
Oh, this was the other one I had to bring. This is another one from Indie Media Award honoree, Sharon Zhang. All right. A truth out. Israel abducted a child near Gaza aid site and then tortured him for nearly a month. Unreal. Content warning. This report includes graphic descriptions of torture. Israeli forces abducted a Palestinian child near an aid site in Gaza in June and took him to a notorious prison camp where they subjected him to severe torture for nearly a month. A child rights group has found, adding abduction and imprisonment to a growing list of atrocities reported at Israel's aid sites. On June 29th, Israel had already killed nearly 600 Palestinians near aid sites over the previous month. 16-year-old Omar Nizar Mahmoud Asfour was detained by Israeli forces and taken to State Haman military prison, reports Defense for Children International Palestine, or DCIP. Omar was near an aid distribution site in Gaza when Israeli forces apprehended and abducted him. The Palestinian Center for Human Rights reports that Omar was one of 10 children abducted near a Gaza Humanitarian Foundation site that day and imprisoned. Authorities allegedly held Omar for 26 days, subjecting him to torture, starvation, well, he was already being starved, and solitary confinement. Systemic abuses commonly inflicted on Palestinians at State Haman and other Israeli torture camps. He was never charged with a crime or allowed to meet with legal or humanitarian officials. Sounds a lot like what the fuck is happening here.
Yep.
Israeli forces have been conducting near-daily massacres near aid distribution sites since Gaza Humanitarian Foundation began operating in Gaza on May 27th, killing over 1,400 Palestinians this way as of August 1st. Over 850 of these killings were near Gaza GHF sites, and hundreds of others were killed en route to the food distribution hubs. It's gross. These massacres have been widely reported. Less widely known is that Israeli forces have repeatedly abducted Palestinians near aid GHF sites, human rights groups have said. Some of the tens of thousands of Palestinians from Gaza and the occupied West Bank who've been kidnapped and imprisoned since the beginning of Israel's genocide, including at least hundreds of children. At least hundreds of children. Imagine that were your kid. Omar shared his experiences with DCIP. He said he's still experiencing trauma from his detention, which he was released from on July 24th. Thank goodness. Quote, the memories of my detention plague my nights, and often I awaken to the sound of my own screams as if I were still confined within those walls. The nightmares are relentless, and every time I shut my eyes, the same faces and interrogations replay in my mind. This is not going away for him for life, as long as his life continues, until Israel decides they want to murder him, after imprisoning and torturing him. I mean, it's just the worst. Fuck Israel. These cunts, man. Omar was alongside other aid seekers when Israeli forces encircled them, held him at gunpoint, and then forced him and 34 others to strip to their underwear. They were taken to an army site where soldiers allowed children to leave, but then blocked Omar from going with them. He was a child, but I guess he looked taller than the others, so they stopped him. Officers interrogated Omar, but were unsatisfied by his answers, so they brought him to the roof of the building, a hospital in Rafah now used by the IDF as an army base per DCIP. There, they tied him to a rope and hung him upside down off the side of the fucking building.
Like fucking Batman?
At one point, the person interrogating him released
Christ.
more rope, causing Omar to plummet 5 floors, his head stopping about a half meter just before he hit the ground. He said he was suspended this way for 20 minutes. Imagine the blood rush into your head then. He struggled to breathe. It felt as though I was teetering on the brink of death. These people are already being tortured and starved. Omar was subject to other torture before being taken to the torture prison, State Haman, where Israeli officers blindfolded him and put him in a 1 square meter cage for 3 days straight. Then they took him to a part of the prison known to detainees as the hell section, as if the rest of it wasn't, where they subjected him to yet more torture, including beatings, electric shocks, and sleep deprivation, and later the disco room, a cage-like room where officers play extremely loud music. For a week while detained, Israeli officers...
Where have we seen that before?
Gitmo?
One of, sure. I was thinking of Abu Ghraib, but sure.
For a week while detained, Israeli officers also interrogated Omar about members of his family, beating him when the answers were unsatisfactory. Because you know that, forced confessions under torture certainly hold a lot of weight. No, they don't at all. Since the moment I was released, I've been waking up in a state of fear, he said. My sleep is shallow and fragmented, leaving me unfamiliar with the sensation of true rest. Insomnia is a silent killer, and the exhaustion I feel is not merely physical, it penetrates my very soul, as if the ordeal of detention has merely transformed rather than concluded. Fuck Israel. Most humane military in the world, right? Only democracy in the Middle East.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Only democracy in the Middle East, right, everyone? These motherfuckers. Mm-hmm. These motherfuckers. Cunts, as Kieran
Your continued
Pine.
Existence is a mockery of morality.
That's a great movie. I think there was just the anniversary of Pogba
you
in the
remember
theaters.
What happens right after that, right?
I do. That's
what I'm wanting.
That's in the movie conference room.
Go get Matt Damon. Matt Damon.
You didn't say God bless you. Yes. Agreed, KYE. Yes, they did, Steve Gill. I didn't want to bring that. They blew up a little girl heaving a water jug.
I know.
I couldn't. I couldn't. Sadistic fucks. Yes, they are. Good to see Ryan Bradley. That's fucking wild, but that's their MO when it comes to the prisons they have. As fucked as it is to say, I'm sure they assaulted him in other ways. Yeah, they probably did. Oh, man. Well, we're certainly not going to be remonetized by
Better say
YouTube for that one.
$3,000.
You better. Although there is a channel that is monetized over there. You go to youtube.com/ @indie@INN, but don't do that.
Not for long.
No, do it over here. Go do it at Cash App, $Indie News Network, over at ko-fi.com/ Indie News Network.
Money, please.
At paypal.me/Indie News Network. Okay, you've got indienewsnow.com, where we have a website where you can check out the news and watch this show live, all the INN shows. And then at Substack at INNnewsletter.com and at IndieMediaToday.com, both. All right. Hunt count is now Noof, the genocidal swine. Yes, that's nice.
9.
9. That's right. We 9.
9.
Oh, man. All right. Well, this one, it's not going to get much better, sadly. This one's another unbelievable story. Unbelievable. We're going to go to another Indie Media Award honoree at Declassified UK. You can't really see it there. Their logo's darked out because we're in a dark thing. That's declassifieduk.org. All right. Indie Media Award honoree, initial class, which is Ian Overton. The U.S. flew spy flights for UK months before the Ministry of Defense admitted it, which, again, we've known for a while. Matt Kennard has been reporting on this for quite a while. All right.
Matthew.
And Declassified is continuing his work of tracking this. So he says, this one, Ian says, a U.S. military contractor hired by Britain to conduct surveillance over Gaza operated above Nuseirat refugee camp the night before an Israeli bombing killed over 30 Palestinians in December of 2024. First question, why is the UK hiring a U.S. military contractor to conduct this surveillance? They don't have enough of their own equipment, planes?
I can't tell you that.
Planes and pilots? And this literally is the flight path of the plane. A U.S. Beechcraft surveillance aircraft. You know what a Beechcraft is? That's like a little two-seater, like a prop engine plane. Circling Nuseirat refugee camp in Gaza less than 24 hours before Israel's deadly airstrike. On the evening of December 12th of last year, 2024, Israel bombed the Nuseirat refugee camp in central Gaza without warning. A post office sheltering displaced families was hit. Nearby houses were shredded. More than 30 Palestinians were killed and over 50 were wounded. Entire families died. Their names posted online within minutes. Declassified can now reveal that a spy plane owned by a U.S. contractor to whom the RAF is outsourcing its spy flights circled over Nuseirat refugee camp the night before the bombing. How do we know this? Publicly available flight tracking data show that in the hours before the blast and again afterwards, 2 surveillance aircraft operating from RAF Akrotiri, we've reported on that base before, Britain's military base on Cyprus, where a lot of Israelis are escaping to before Bibi closed the borders. All right, circled close to or directly over Gaza. One of these was a RAF Shadow R1, all right, literally has the registration number there. That's a surveillance plane that flew towards Gaza in mid-afternoon before vanishing from public tracking near the territory. Amazeballs how they could just turn off their transponders. They're not supposed to be able to do that, by the way. But the other belonged to Straight Flight Nevada Commercial Leasing, LLC, a subsidiary of America's Sierra Nevada Corporation. This was a Beechcraft Super King Air 350 with the registration tail of N6125 and the call sign Crook 11. I think that if you looked into the registry of that plane, you might find an Adelson somewhere connected because they have a lot of stuff in Las Vegas. That would be my guess. That's total speculation. And maybe
Beechcraft Super King Air.
Maybe
is what it was, right?
Yes, and maybe, just maybe, Declassified will mention that here. The presence of this U.S. aircraft alongside Royal Air Force spy planes raises uncomfortable questions about whether British intelligence directly or indirectly assisted Israel's targeting of the camp. Of course they did. Are you fucking kidding me? Come on. Further, the presence of the U.S. contractor over Gaza, and who is that contractor? We know who the plane owner is, right? That's the leasing company that owns the plane, but we don't know who the contractor was. The presence of these uncomfortable questions about whether they assisted the targeting. There's Reef putting the plane up on his screen, Captain. Yeah, it's tiny. It's a two-engine. It's a two-engine prop. All right.
Right.
Further, the presence of the U.S. contractor over Gaza as early as December of 2024 appears to contradict the Ministry of Defense's claim that the company was only hired to take over the missions in recent weeks due to strain on the RAF's Shadow R1 fleet. Bullshit. The Ministry of Defense insists the flights were unarmed. Yes, they were just surveillance flights and solely related to hostage rescue. Again, surveillance flights that they can claim they were looking for Hamas, and denies aiding Israel's prosecution of the war, which is bullshit. But there is no known mechanism to ensure that data shared with the Israeli authorities is not repurposed for attacks in serious violation of international humanitarian law. How about that? On December 11th, 2024, Crook 11 left Akrotiri at 8:14 UTC p.m., arriving in Gaza at around 9:10. Takes about an hour to fly that little thing. It orbited above Nuseirat for around 20 minutes. Its fixed track consisted with detailed optical or signal surveillance before heading back to Cyprus, switching off its transponder en route at 10:17 p.m. UTC and landing shortly after.
Cam.
Right. That's exactly what it is. It's the cops turning off their body cams, which you should not be allowed to do. The following day, the RAF Shadow ZZ-419 left Akrotiri at 3:05 p.m., went dark near Gaza, and reappeared less than an hour before the bombing. Huh, go figure. Crook 11 then on the 12th took off at 7:08 p.m. And then, right, which social media reports suggest coincided with the time Israel began to bomb Nuseirat. The plane then held its position just off Gaza's coast for around half an hour and was circling near Gaza less than an hour after the bombing. They were surveying the damage on behalf of Israel. Such timing lends weight to concerns that surveillance may have been shared with Israel, and used for target selection. May have been. Under Article 16 of the International Law Commission's draft articles on state responsibility, which they don't give a shit about, providing intelligence of clear military utility that's employed in an unlawful attack could expose Britain to liability as a party to the conflict. Yeah, that's the needle hole that you need to go through. The eye of that needle that you need to thread.
Stop. You violated the law.
Because we don't have enough support yet, right? Enough violations of international law to prosecute them.
Right.
The UK's Investigatory Powers Commission's office, that sounds draconian as shit, which oversees UK public authorities such as the intelligence agencies, refused to tell Declassified whether it had even reviewed intelligence sharing from these missions, citing its exemption from such disclosures under the FOIA. How convenient. Britain has now conducted more than 600 surveillance flights over Gaza since October of 2023, according to analysis by the London-based research charity Action on Armed Violence. The Ministry of Defense admits that by mid-2025, the RAF's small shadow fleet of surveillance aircraft was strained, prompting the hiring of Straight Flight Nevada to provide an equivalent platform. Straight Flight Nevada has got to be CIA or Mossad connected, 100%.
You think?
The planes are owned and crewed by the contractor, but operated from Akrotiri and perform the same recon roles as the RAF's own aircraft. It gives them
work for the CIA?
It gives them plausible deniability over anything that happens, too. The arrangement first became public last month after a mishap spotted by journalists at Palestine Deep Dive. A Beechcraft with a call sign of Crook 12 failed to disable its transponder while circling over Khan Yunis. I'm going to have that with Matt Kennard in a second. This showed for the first time that contractor-flown aircraft were operating over Gaza. Senior British military figures confirmed the U.S. hiring U.S. contractors for the Gaza flights. I don't understand how that can in any way be legal. Declassified's finding shows that the arrangement has been of much longer standing and that the Ministry of Defense hired the contractor months before previously believed. Flight tracking data show that a Beechcraft belonging to the U.S. contractor with a different registration arrived at Akwatiri on December 5th of 2024, having flown from Hagerstown, Maryland, via St. John's, Reykjavik, and Palermo, Sicily. This was at a time when 4 of the RAF's 5 Shadows were operational, a fact that casts doubt on the Ministry of Defense claim that the outsourcing was purely to cover for aircraft undergoing maintenance. No, they were providing some kind of support as well. And they were allowing Israel to now monitor via that contractor directly and not have to go through the British Ministry of Defense that may not have wanted to share all of the overflight information. This was again at a time when, Ministry of Defense also refuses to disclose the cost or duration of its contract with Straight Flight Nevada, citing operational sensitivity? What? How does it matter how much it costs having to do with operational sensitivity, except that when you find out how much they're paying, you're going to want to shut it the fuck down? The December 12th bombing was not the only lethal incident preceded by British-linked surveillance flights. Of course not. On June 8th of last year, Israeli forces attacked Nuseirat in a raid to free 4 hostages, killing more than 270 Palestinians and injuring hundreds. In the 2 weeks prior to that, the RAF had flown 24 missions over or near Gaza. The Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights later concluded the raid may amount to a war crime. May. Defense Minister Luke Pollard later confirmed that the UK had shared intelligence with relevant authorities in relation to hostage rescue, but declined to say whether this information had been used in the Nuseirat raid, citing operational security and desire to cover his own ass from being charged with war crimes. Foreign Secretary douchebag David Lammy has come under fire for obfuscating the role of the spy planes, for which the Ministry of Defense had previously confirmed information relating to hostage rescue is passed to the relevant Israeli authorities. Bro, they have hacked all of your shit and they're seeing it before your guys do. I hate to tell you, fuckers. Cunts. What Lammy, of course, has not addressed is how intelligence sharing carries inherent risks. As Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee has noted, data can be repurposed for entirely different ends, sometimes unlawful ones. And that would make David Lammy personally liable. I hope he's brought up on charges at The Hague. We know he won't be, but he should be. Once handed over, Britain can't dictate or monitor the use of intelligence. The government insists it takes careful steps to control what information is shared with Israel, but without further elaboration. While being questioned over the flights in July 2025 on BBC Radio, that's, of course, propaganda for Israel, Lammy said, quote, "It would be quite wrong for the British government to assist in the prosecution of this war in Gaza. We are not doing that. I would never do that." You're a fucking liar. You're a fucking liar. Still, the spy flights have prompted sharp criticism. Really? Liberal Democrat defense spokesperson Helen McGuire has urged ministers to explain what safeguards prevent UK-sourced intelligence from being abused in Israeli operations. Absolutely nothing. Nothing, folks. I've got nothing. Jeremy Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn, has called flights utterly indefensible during a live-streamed genocide around the world. One senior military source told The Times, instead of sending a message to Israel that we aren't going to do surveillance for you, we're happy to hire an American company and pay for it, so that we don't have access to the data and we can claim that we didn't do it. We'll just let you use our bases and provide all kinds of support so that you can do it. In December of 2024, an Amnesty International report urged states such as the UK to halt military and security assistance to Israel in light of the clear risk of enabling serious violations of international law. And the UK summarily wiped their ass with that report. Or wiped their arse, actually. Despite such warnings, that same month, Prime Minister Kid Starver, a.k.a. Keir Starmer, told personnel at Akrotiri that, quote, quite a bit of what goes on here can't necessarily be talked about. We can't tell the world what you're doing here, unquote, because they would charge us all with war crimes and send us to The Hague for life. He should be in The Hague because of what he did to fucking Julian Assange, tearing up his notes. Secrecy and suspicion. So, for those in New Surat on December 12th, the sequence was brutally simple. The hum of an aircraft, hours later the shockwave of bombs, then the digging for survivors. Far from afar, the picture is less clear but equally troubling. The government maintains that no British citizens remain among the hostages in Gaza, raising further doubts over the stated rationale for the flights. Why is the UK supporting this then? Civil society groups argue that the missions should be suspended until Israel ends its campaign of mass bombardment, siege and starvation, which it never will. Declassified asked the Ministry of Defense whether the Beechcraft flights in December were directed or coordinated by the UK. The department didn't deny it and told Declassified that the flights are unarmed, solely for locating the hostages, which again is a lie, and that the UK controls what intelligence is shared with Israel, except when it's coming from a private U.S. contractor, limiting it to hostage rescue information, which of course is also bullshit. You can guarantee that they were targeting cell signals for journalists that they were executing. No further details could be given for operational security reasons, because everyone wanted to cover their own ass. Campaigners are now calling for a full public inquiry into Britain's military collaboration with Israel, which you will never get. The Gaza Tribunal, convened by Corbyn's team, promises to, quote, uncover the truth about the UK's role and potential complicity in genocide. They've done these tribunals before. Any investigation by international courts into alleged war crimes will likely examine the part played by contractor-flown aircraft like those of Straight Flight Nevada. In the meantime, the transponders have been turned off, the flight paths have been made invisible, and Britain's role in Gaza's skies and perhaps its ruins remains hidden behind officialdom. Except for this. Where's the one from Matt? All right. Keir Starmer secretly privatized UK spy flights going over Gaza to Israel. He got busted. But now he's refusing to say how much the contract is costing the British taxpayer. We're paying a U.S. company to participate in genocide, and we're not even allowed to know how much. There's the flight path of the guy who fucked up. But there's another tweet I've got here, and I guess it's inside this electronic intifada section, which I know.
You're watching the.
Hold on, starts at 10 minutes and 17 seconds. Let's watch this. Matt Kennard talk to Asa Winstanley and Nora Barrows-Friedman of EI. Okay.
20 months of these flights, every single time you look at them online, they turn their transponder off over the sea on their way to Gaza. So we never have known what they're doing over Gaza. So this was the first evidence we have of what they were doing. And I think it's important evidence that should be part of a legal case, to be totally honest with you. Yeah, it's up on the screen now. So they were over, and it was over Khan Yunis for 3 hours in the Khan Yunis area. There was a airstrike which killed civilians the following day.
This is a real breakthrough in the story because
huge.
You know, I mean, you know, you mentioned these gifs you've been of the flight paths you've been posting over the last you know, nearly 2 years to your Twitter about this, but they until now they always stop just short of Gaza. That's correct,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
And this is the first time, due to this kind of effective privatization of these spy flights to a US contractor.
Exactly.
It seems they accidentally left their transponder on over at Gaza itself.
Yeah, exactly. So the story developed because obviously we contacted the Ministry of Defense and said, what's going on? Why is there a contracted plane? They didn't give it even on the record statement. They gave no information. I contacted the US Department of Defense. They've referred me to the UK Ministry of Defense, and I contacted the company who didn't respond. So we had very little information about who was operating and what had happened to the program. But we had noticed it. We tracked where this plane, the new US spy plane, had been, and we saw that it had left the US airport called Hagerstown Regional Airport in Maryland on the 12th of July. It had gone to Iceland, then Northern Ireland, and Canada, and then Sicily, and then Akrotiri. It was a 3-day trip, and then we saw from the 20th of July to the 25th of July that it actually went on its missions over Gaza with the RAF plane. So it was obviously a training exercise. So, but in the article, we speculated about who could be operating. I thought it might be the Americans or the Israelis or even the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Anyone can be these clients. But anyway, it became a big story because I tweeted that video on Monday. It got over 3 million views on Twitter, over 1 million on Instagram, and for the first time, a mainstream journalist got interested in the story. And there was an article in the Times yesterday. There's been 2 this week, 2 very big breakthrough articles. Sorry,
Well, let me take you through some of that because I've got some of the quotes from that lined up. So, you know, as you mentioned, you published this information on Twitter, and then, you know, you published your full article, your scoop for Palestine Deep Dive on Monday. And this appears, as you've said, to have finally hammered a crack in this kind of wall of silence that the British media has really erected since these surveillance missions over Gaza first started flying in December 2023, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So on Tuesday, then we saw finally a mainstream newspaper in Britain, the Times of London, and they reported on your story effectively without really crediting you at first, and they wrote, quote, "The British military is continuing to fly spy planes over Gaza to help Israel find missing hostages as Palestinian civilians are starved and killed. Government sources have confirmed to the Times," so they're back, you know, they're confirming your reporting. It continues, "Intelligence gathered by undisclosed RAF aircraft and other British assets in the region is being handed over to the Israeli military, so it has real-time information on the movement of captured Israelis," end of quote. So, you know, I know that when you asked them for comment, Matt, the Ministry of Defense refused to comment. So it's highly significant, I think, that a mainstream media source has finally and belatedly confirmed this.
Can I just say something about that quote as well? Because there's 2 major breakthroughs in that line that you read out. Like, so as I mentioned, up till now, the government has said, we only give them to, it's only hostage rescue and we only give them to relevant authorities. They would never say what it is. Government sources told the Times in that fast article, number 1, that they're handing it to the Israeli military. Number 2, that they're doing it in real time because the Shadow R1 spy plane can do that. One of its capabilities is it can send the intelligence to the ground while it's in the sky. So this should be evidence in a war crimes trial because that they purposefully not told us it's the Israeli military, although we obviously knew that it would be. But the fact they're doing it in real time, and the point they always say, which is that it's hostage rescue, right, is insane because if you're handing this intelligence in real time to the Israeli military, how can you then say to them, well, you can't use it for anything else apart from hostage rescue? They don't know where it's going when it's in Israel. It's like as if Israel is a trusted party in anything, let alone using intelligence in the way they're telling the British. So it's but as I say, the whole program is unraveling, which is beautiful to see, because it's only been upheld by secrecy and the fact there's been no scrutiny by the mainstream media. And now both those things have been smashed. And that article was very important, because that article was kind of a reaction to our piece in a way, because we left open the question of who were operating these flights. And actually the fact that it was the UK that would be subcontracted out was low down my list of possibilities, because it still doesn't make sense to me. Why would you need, they've got 8 of these Shadow R1 planes, right? And they've been doing it for 20 months. And then suddenly they decide, oh, we're going to subcontract it out to a US company. My hunch is, knowing now that they did do that, is that they did it to conceal the program more, because they were coming under increasing heat. The first time a minister has ever been asked about them, which is insane, by a mainstream journalist, was a couple of weeks ago when David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, was asked on BBC Radio about them. He was asked, he said, are we handing intelligence to the Israeli military? And he said, no. So straight lied.
Yeah, well, we're gonna come on to that, but I'd like to talk about.
All right. So, dude, that's it, again, admitted war crimes. It looks like things are moving and progressing toward that. Again, talking about they're paying a U.S. contractor. My guess is that they're paying the U.S. contractor because they don't want to see what's happening in the spy flights. They want to they'll provide support, but they don't really want to get their hands dirty with this if they don't have to. Now,
plus, we share all our information anyway, so.
Now, we've talked about Palestine Action, and of course, they no longer exist, but people are still getting arrested for saying they support them, right? The reason Yvette Cooper has proscribed Palestine Action is that she's a member of Labor Friends of Israel and received 215,000 pounds from the Zionist lobby, which incidentally is 215,000 pounds more than Palestine Action ever received on behalf of a foreign power. Government ministers are lying to you. So I wanted to point that out about the UK. Fuck the UK, fuck Israel, fuck all these lies and nonsense smears to support genocide. So, yeah. That was the long spy flight segment. So I did want to get to some of the Trump administration stuff. We are gonna do boats, but I'm probably running a little long here. I actually set boats to start at 12:15 because I was expecting it's going to take a little longer. We could talk a little bit about what Trump administration's up to, and I'll whip through these quicker. But first off, Florida international workers were directed to secretly deliver equipment to Alligator Alcatraz. At least one operations trailer? But, huh? Who authorized that?
Yeah, they're doing another one too.
All right. They were instructed to covertly deliver university-owned equipment. Right? FIU's collaboration with ICE comes after the Miami New Times reported last month that the detention facility was built in part by a company whose president is chair of FIU's Board of Trustees. It also comes as U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams on August 7th ordered a 2-week temporary halt to construction at the site, ruling that no additional industrial lighting, paving, filling, excavating, fencing, or other new structures could be added. So this is an important article about, now you've got FIU providing support from a private university because they're on their board of trustees is who? Who was that again? Let me go back. Board of trustees.
Kathleen Williams?
No, is the president of the company that built the facility. Would probably be Geo Group. Or one of the private prison organizations. Public records obtained by PRISM confirm that senior leadership of FIU's operations and security Operations and Safety, coordinated directly with FDEM, the Division of Emergency Management, I can't speak, to deliver specialized university equipment to the detention site. What is that specialized equipment? I don't even want to know. Actually, I do. All right. So that's number one, is that they're getting university local support. Number two, I brought another Truth Out article, which was that immigration, again, not a surprise. Descendant Bloom has been talking about this too. Private prison giants now hold 90% of detained immigrants and aim to triple capacity, which will generate $1.5 billion in revenue for them. So shareholders of Core Civic and Geo Group love all this stuff. All right. And this was, again, out of Truth Out. Amid escalating anti-immigrant rhetoric and legislative crackdowns at the state and federal levels, private prison corporations are once again expanding their grip on U.S. detention policy. In fact, today, again, roughly 90% of detained immigrants are held in privately operated facilities, the highest share in history. Again, nothing to see here, folks, right? This industry exists despite years of promises to phase out for-profit incarceration that started in 2016 with Obama and were renewed by Biden when he took office. Unfortunately, these promises focused exclusively on the Bureau of Prisons and excluded immigration detention. Again, how convenient. As such, through their presidencies, most federal contracts with private prison corporations remained untouched in the immigration detention space. How convenient again. Now, with another Trump presidency, the industry is instead preparing for explosive growth. You can look at what their stock did the day after Election Day when it was announced that Trump won. On recent earnings calls, Core Civic executives announced plans to triple the number of beds in their facilities within a few months. That would mean an additional $1.5 billion in revenue for that corporation, more than doubling its annual earnings. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Injustice, growing scrutiny of immigration detention practices has led to reports of abuse, medical neglect, and deaths in custody. Privatization, with the cost-cutting practices that define it, is the structural driver of human rights violations at these facilities. Again, no surprise. So this is a longer article that, again, I will link to in the description. Jack's Page shared another one. This is horrible. ICE arrests a high school student who has a special visa reserved for families that helped the U.S. military in Afghanistan. It was a very, very difficult visa
What country
to
are
get.
you from?
It was a very, very difficult visa to get, explained the lawyer. It's reserved for people who, at their own peril, assisted American military in our operations. Armand Momand was detained by agents at a court hearing related to a December 2024 driving incident. The case resolution was a minor misdemeanor, which should have allowed him to continue his permanent residency with the rest of his family. Instead, ICE is rushing to deport him just days before he was set to start school at J.R. Tucker High School in Henrico, Virginia. So let's watch this dystopian news report.
Just days before he was set to start the school year at J.R. Tucker High School, 19-year-old Armand Momand was arrested by ICE officers at the Henrico courthouse this past Friday.
This experience has been very traumatic for everybody associated with the family.
According to his immigration attorney, Miriam Arrington Fisher, the arrest was made despite Momand having a special visa that was granted to him because of his family's help to the United States military in Afghanistan.
It's a very, very difficult visa to get. It's reserved for people who are nationals of Afghanistan or Iraq who, at their own peril, assisted American military in our operations in those countries.
Fisher says Momand was at court for charges related to a December 2024 driving incident. He faced multiple charges, including a felony. 2 were resolved and 3 were set aside. Ultimately, he was found guilty of misdemeanor reckless driving and disorderly conduct, neither of which he was given additional jail time for.
Because the vast majority of the charges were dropped and the ultimate resolution was a minor misdemeanor, that he would be released and be able to pick up and resume with his permanent residency case with the rest of his family. But instead, ICE decided to execute the detainer, pick him up, put him in immigration detention, and is now attempting to deport him.
Fisher says this incident differs than those previously executed at local courthouses, explaining ICE targeted Maman specifically.
In my view, it's a waste of, it's inappropriate legally, and it's also a waste of government resources.
Yes, it is. Of course it is. Again, part of the point. Yep. The punishment is the point. And finally, I wanted to call note to all that's going on in D.C. I didn't want to ignore it. Of course, we know that there's been like a federal takeover of the D.C. police. The Attorney General of D.C. is suing to try to undo that, but we don't know what's going to happen there. Okay, there was a traffic stop last night in D.C. right near Colin's house. He said, this is literally happening down the street from where I live. Fortunately, I don't have a car, but I'm still worried I might get stopped or questioned just because I'm black. It's happened to me before, and I'm sure it'll happen again. And fuck ICE, fuck Trump, fuck the police, fuck 12, ACAB.
Coming straight from the underground.
1312, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that was our fuck Trump. And here's some of the stuff that's going on around the Trump administration and all the horrors that they're trying to inflict on immigrants, on poor and working people, and now on all the residents of D.C. Thanks a lot for that, Trump. Fuck off. So we're certainly, you know, YouTube may like that segment. I don't know, but we're not monetized on YouTube. We can't get a super chat. We can't get a membership and a subscription at INN.
Right away.
So the ways that you support our network is Cash App, $, Indie News Network, ko-fi.com. Yeah, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, at paypal.me/Indie News Network, over at indienewsnow.com, that's our news website, and at the Substacks at INNnewsletter.com for the network, and at indiemediatoday.com, which is my newsletter, which houses this show and all of its clips. Okay, I've got lightning round, and then we will get to boats. That wasn't too bad. Next. Boeing strike. I'm guessing you haven't heard of this unless you live in the Midwest, because people don't talk about worker strikes. But it's important, and we need to, because there's a couple of them here. There's a worker strike. Boeing, so here's what happened. It's in St. Louis. More than 3,200 Boeing workers in Missouri and Illinois walked out Monday in a powerful strike against the weapons manufacturer and decades of union-backed concessions. The strike had shut down production at 3 factories in the St. Louis area that build critical components for American imperialism's global war machine, including F-15 warplanes and the next generation F-47 stealth fighter. Workers voted by a 2-1 margin on Sunday, that was last week, to reject Boeing's best and final offer, which was backed by, of course, a union, the IAM Local 37, under mounting pressure from rank-and-file workers who had already rejected a previous IAM-backed deal on July 27th. The union was forced to call the strike, the first strike at the plant since 1996. We're going to get into what they want, and basically they want to peel back stuff. They want to get rid of the 2-tier wage. They want restoration of company-paid pensions. They have demands. They also said that the 20% raise over 4 years would hardly put a dent in what they've lost due to inflation, and what would in any case affect only a small number of workers because of seniority. So that's World Socialist website. Not a big fan of Jerry White, but he wrote a good one there. But I wanted to call attention to Boeing striking. This was the Golden Monarch article I wanted to share. He wrote about, and we've been talking about getting together for another one-on-one soon to talk about crypto. Ripple Labs. I think I might have mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. They settled a lawsuit with the SEC, a long time suit, and now their floor is clear to go after agreements and be treated as a commodity that will be dealt with on the commodities exchange. So Ripple still lurks around on top of the recent 401k executive order, which again we covered last week, that's going to allow private hedge funds and 401ks to invest in crypto. But not just 401ks and hedge funds. MasterCard is now embedded with Ripple. So SEC and Ripple filed joint dismissal of appeals. You've got a crypto tracker there. All right. But where's the other thing? Ripple's role in all this madness. All right. The SEC is basically dead.
Ripple.
That's XRP, by the way, is the symbol for Ripple. When eventual news breaks out about
this
which...
isn't just what...
Go ahead.
Sanford and Son enjoy on a Saturday?
No, not at all.
Not Ripple?
Because what Ripple is going to do,
Gotcha.
Ripple and Bank of America and MasterCard are all in bed together now. Like Ripple is going to issue a stable coin.
As you would.
Right? Ripple is amongst one of several crypto-related scandals that's gone unscathed, no thanks to the Trump administration effectively killing the SEC. Notable dishonorable mentions include Justin Son of Tron, OpenSea, Robinhood, Kraken, right? Coinbase and Binance. They've all been under investigation by the SEC.
Gotcha. Justin Son of Tron, not Justin Son of Tron.
Right.
Which is like
Son of
different
Tron.
character.
Is that like
Son of Tron?
Is that like Son of Godzilla?
Something like that, yeah.
Besides Ripple's own token of XRP, this is important. Ripple has an emerging stablecoin called Ripple US Dollar, or RLUSD, much like Tether's namesake token and Circle's USDC. RLUSD is another stablecoin that's purposely pegged to the US dollar. Remember that Eric Trump also has one of these for World Liberty Financial.
Yeah.
As Ripple effectively buys up companies to have greater influence within the crypto industry, Ripple, if left unchecked, may eventually rival against the monstrous Tether. So you're going to end up with another stablecoin crypto Ponzi based upon
crypto and everything else that you're playing with.
Pegged to the dollar, right? Ripple CEO has discussed possibilities. No, not really. For Ripple to pursue an IPO if their strategy were to expand and evolve per capital. Yeah, that'll happen. They'll go public like Circle did. And then Tether will go public and Howard Lutnick will be worth $5 billion. Or however much he's going to be worth.
Capitalism.
Yeah, it's real bad. Read this article. This is a good one. Then, this is a long article that I wanted to bring a lot more of, but I'm just going to show a couple of things that are important. Really funny. It's about the enshittification of Substack, which hurts me personally a lot. I've invested a lot of time in making that platform work for me. Go ahead.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
Thank you. Substack is your boss, and he's dissatisfied with your performance. And what he's talking about is that Substack's business model has now got to change because they've got to now start to show profitability, which means focusing on paid subscribers and purging out the free ones. So people like me specifically will be directly affected by this because they don't like my freeloading off their platform. They only make money when a paid subscriber subscribes to a publication. Otherwise, and as they mention here, they're providing all of this infrastructure for free. Right?
Yep. That's what happened with Reddit eventually. They just kowtowed to advertisers because they needed money.
Right.
They were in the red since the beginning.
Right. And shittification is the term coined by essayist Cory Doctorow to describe the seemingly inevitable process through which internet social platforms thrive, decay, and then die, basically because there's no way for this type of thing to exist long term. It's temporary. It has a life cycle, one that is frustratingly brief. In Doctorow's cycle, quote, first they're good to their users, then they abuse their users to make things better for their business customers, which is where we are now. Then finally, they abuse those business customers to claw back all the value for themselves, and then they die. On Substack, if you, like most writers, are someone who produces anything higher than 0 free content, then your huge list of free subscribers is great for both you and your subscribers. You get an audience for your work, and they get to read it. But this arrangement is terrible for Substack. They maintain and pay for the staffing, the cloud storage, the email infrastructure that facilitates an exponentially growing number of users, most of whom don't pay or earn anything through the platform and are therefore, from a business point of view, freeloading. To mitigate this and pivot toward profitability, Substack desperately needs to stem the flow of free subscribers and low-activity subscribers and limit, to the point they can get away with it, the gratis usage of their platform, focusing their attention instead on the high rollers and top bestsellers, like Barry Weiss in the Free Press, like Anna Kasparian, like Don Lemon, like Jim Acosta, like.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
Joyanne Reed. They do this in ways that aren't always visible to the closed Substack ecosystem. For example, did you know that Substack will unilaterally and without notice terminate free publications that they deem to be low engagement? Never heard of that. If you didn't know this, then you're probably not on the Substack subreddit, which is easy to fly under the radar when you forget that other social platforms exist. Between people trying to slip self-promotion past the mods in defiance of the sub's rules and the futile begging for the secret to growth, you see a lot of stories of users who've had their publication or entire account locked for reasons they can't get straight answers about from a customer support team whose supportiveness is sharply graded on how valuable a customer you are. This really pisses me off, and I've been flipping out and raising the alarm about this. Substack support, which was barely ever a thing to begin with, has really gone downhill, especially since they delegated it almost entirely to a chatbot that's barely more sophisticated than Clippy. Accurate. Search for support-related keywords, and you'll find legions of people braying in frustration that they can't get help with anything, and it's very common for accounts to be terminated without explanation or possibility of appeal. Not for breaking any apparent rules, but seemingly for being just kind of unpopular. Wow. That's Mark Andreessen. He's a lizard person.
Turtle?
Right. Famously, they won't suspend you for using the platform to spread open Nazism. And they also won't take action on plagiarism, which is also a serious problem going on Substack. Their number one Substacker, Heather, whatever her name is, she plagiarized a straight up article, and they're not doing anything about it. Right? The situation will get worse as time goes on, and the people who believe in Substack as an idea will continue to try and find ways to justify everything. Right? Sarah Fay, she runs a Substack called Substack Writers at Work. Right? She's admitting that she's had a 90% drop in subscribers. She's the writing coach, right? To that end, in her post, she tries to cushion her clients' concerns by characterizing free subscriber growth as a harmful distraction from the work, a counterproductive dopamine that's bad for your mental health. Now, I wanted to mention that above because they do say that they are throttling. Here. Faye's post detailing her interaction with Substack is paywalled. All right. But it's important to say that they are basically throttling free subs. The goal is that they're changing their focus away from helping people grow their subscriber lists and more toward improving the ratio of paid subscriptions. So thank you very much to Eric who subscribed tonight at INN Newsletter. All right. It really pisses me off. Our fates are now in the hands once again of the almighty algorithm. As readers, we are trusting it not to show us anything we wouldn't love enough to pay for it. It's just fucking pissed. It really pisses me off, which is why we're working on setting up shop elsewhere. And because you might think about going to get a job, U.S.-based companies announce record number of impending layoffs. And the number one reason given, Doge actions. So they're literally using the Elon Musk bullshit to justify getting rid of workers, even though profits are at record highs. This is another good Truth That article. I would recommend reading this one. All right. Then we also have Robert Inlakesh, another Indie Media Award honoree. Google just disabled my account right after YouTube was deleted right after my YouTube was deleted without reason. Now here's what's weird. On my YouTube, I had no strikes. My new account was removed simply because of my name. I hadn't even made a video. I believe it's a concerted campaign to censor my journalism about Gaza. And I can only imagine what a skeptic says, because he's a fool. The highlighted video violates YouTube standards. That you say that you're a journalist is what he's a douchebag. A skeptic. Next. Anti-war. Report, U.S. deploys, and this is another thing Dave DeCamp said, who else is talking about, like, troops in the South? In the global South? In like, South America? The U.S. deploys air and naval forces, not even Somalia, to southern Caribbean to address, quote, threats from cartels. Basically, he's sending the CIA in to destabilize Maduro. So read this article out of Dave DeCamp at antiwar.com. Then we also have this one, and somebody, I'm sure we might cover this next week in the Fuck Israel segment. There was a pedo working for Bibi Netanyahu who was in Las Vegas and caught up in a sting operation. He got arrested, jailed, but somehow he got out on bail and then hopped on a flight, flew back to Israel, where he will face no prosecution. A top Israeli intelligence official. Go ahead.
Heard some pray tell he might be part of Grok too.
What a shock. What a shock. He's part of Grok.
Yeah.
A top Israeli intelligence official, according to the Jerusalem Post, who's close personal friends with Satan Yahoo, was just arrested in a sting operation targeting pedophile rapists in Las Vegas. And of course, the Israeli embassy told the FBI to release him, and they immediately complied. Because they work for who again? Zero Western media is covering this.
Yep.
At least corporate media. We are. And finally, we'll get to the GoFundMes. Anthony Malecki's sister-in-law, Natalia, still could use help with her GoFundMe. We talked about this last week in detail with the Descent in Bloom article about what's happening in Ohio. All right, good evening to Big Tom as well over on Rumble. Working mother taken by ICE, please help. So again, her story goes that she was illegally detained for a registration thing, which was not expired. Working, paying taxes, taken into ICE custody, illegally stopped over a not expired registration. So anything anybody can do there to help raise some money there, we'll drop the GoFundMe in the description after the show. Also, I wanted to give shout to our brother Andrew Zygmunt Smith and his daughter Anna Marie. We've been talking about Anna Marie and her battle with brain tumors for a while. How they had to go to Cincinnati and spend weeks undergoing daily therapy treatment to teach her how to read Braille. And there was another treatment that went along with that. Apparently, he said that she'll be going back in for surgery this week to clean and reseal part of her incision. And then he mentioned that they were not yet home. And that was on Friday. So if we could get prayers and, of course, support for their GoFundMe for her as well, they've raised almost $8,000 toward helping her and helping the family pay its bills. But this has been going on for months. Family has to eat. You know, I don't know how much Andrew can work and what's going on with the situation with earning. Anything anybody can do, please, really, really would appreciate any help there. I mentioned Indie News Now earlier. This is our news website where, again, you'll be able to see INN to see this show live, as well as boats smashing into other boats, but not just INN articles. George Hazim and Azra Dale and antiwar.com. Just at the top right now, there's more articles from A Skeptic with all their breakdown of the situation going on at the front lines in Russia, Ukraine. And you can just keep scrolling and scrolling.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
An infinite scroll of content and news to pay attention to. So that's Indie News Now. And if you want to pick up some merch, the way to do that is at indienewsshop.itemorder.com. And there are less expensive shirts here through Big Frog. I'm going to put that in the chat. But these are...
Buy my merch right quick.
That helps. But yeah, I actually reached out. There was somebody who did not get their stickers through the Spring store. So I reached out to Ryan, and we're working on getting her a set of stickers. That's Lisa over on Substack. Again, thank you so much for supporting independent media. Man, all she wanted to do was go order a couple stickers, and it's been like 2 months. She never got them. Spring says they did deliver them, but they really didn't, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I'm spent, everyone. It's after midnight. Oh, it's not too bad after midnight, but that's good. Before we head out, real quickly, thank you, everyone. These are our INN supporters, Wall of Fame. These are the people that have already...
Thank you very much.
Yep. Cash App, $ Indie News Network, co-v.com/Indie News Network. You can go to paypal.me/Indie News Network. You can go to that website I just showed you, indienewsnow.com, or at the Substacks at INNnewsletter.com, where we will be live for boats smashing into other boats in a few minutes, or at IndieMediaToday.com, where we have been live for the past 2+ hours doing this show. So, man, thank you everyone for hanging out and for going through all this stuff with me and letting me kind of vent and get through it. The cops had the nerve to say he was compassionate because he left the baby alive on a stranger's doorstep in 100-degree temps. Oh my God. Another crazy story. Godzuki is Godzilla's kid. I saw that. Brad Angel, I used to live where the checkpoints are now in DC. I'm about 15 miles away. Glad I moved. Yeah, me too. ICE CBP are asking for papers like the SS. Yep, we got Nazis within our midst. Unreal, folks. So yeah, we'll be over on INN 8 the Ocho for boats smashing into other boats. So let me drop the link to that as well. The Rumble link for boats will be here in the chats, so everyone can go over and check that out. Again, we'll be live at INNnewsletter.com. We will also be live at IndieNewsNow.com and on the Kick, Twitch, Twitters, everywhere else that we normally are. All right, everyone. I love you all. Take care of each other. Support independent media because we really need it more than ever. And I'll see you soon. Love you all. Have a good night, everyone.
We go party. Mwah. Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say?
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say?